Have you ever wanted to make your own snowy mountain trail? Perhaps a ridgeline with a nice icy lake? Or perhaps a castle with some amazing slopes and views? Or perhaps this monstrosity of a level? Well, you're in luck then. I'm going to show you a basic tutorial on how to do this. So we navigate into the editor, name our level, boop. Here you can choose the biome, any of the ones that you have available. I'm going to choose this last one. You can change the terrain height, so having your map start really low or really high. I'm just going to have mine start in the middle, and we'll create that level. At first you'll just have this little patch of snow. Let's start with the camera basics. You can use right click to swivel, look around. You can use WASD to move, to go forward and backwards, and you can scroll to zoom in and out. Here is your tools menu up here. You have a lot of different options, and we'll go through some of these. We're going to start out with some paths. Most of your mountains or trails will be built with these. So we can click here, add a path. And this move tool, you can use these arrows to move things along the axes. And you can find that tool right here. There's also a rotate tool, which allows you to rotate along any of the different axes that you would like. You can change the slope that way. To really edit our paths though, we'll use these little yellow gizmos. These edit the individual points. You can use the move tool over here as well to raise and lower, to twist your path. These blue gizmos can widen your path very quickly, which is kind of nice. You can do that on both sides. You can also, if you would like, you can change the widths just right here. I tend to like to do this. This will be a pretty small path, but you can definitely make them bigger if you would like. Let's get a side view here. Show how some slope tools work. So this yellow gizmo, we can see that there is a spline right here. This is super important. If you make this wider, longer, it will change the slope of your trail. You can change the other one too to have this little S start to happen. If you leave this really small, your trail can be very bumpy, so you want to have this flow naturally with what you would like. As you can see, we've got a nice little slope going. And now we can add to our path. We can elongate from the path's end, which is where we're at, or from the beginning. So we'll do the end, and that'll give us a lot more to work with. This is how you'll make your paths. It's nice to have them connected as much as you can, but you can have gaps if you'd like. So we can move this over here. We're still headed the same direction here, but you can change that with the splines. Move that over there, and we've changed the direction of the path, so we've got a nice turn. We can add more to our end. We can move this down. Maybe we'll have this be the end of our third little checkpoint, our little finish line for the tutorial. Adjust that over here. We can select this point of our checkpoint, and you can change the slope, side to side slope right here. This is nice for turns. You can mess around with this. A lot of times I tend to leave it as 0. You can kind of get your paths a little messed up, but it's definitely nice for some parts of a path. And of course, to be able to test this out, we need to add some checkpoints. So they'll have a couple already set up for you. We can just delete those. They're just in the wrong spots. So to create our own checkpoint, it'll make it kind of where you're looking. And since our path is kind of small, we can see that the default checkpoint is a lot wider than ours. So we can use the rotate tool, get that aligned with ours. You'll have to change views Look from different angles a lot in the editor just to make sure you are where you think you are, considering this is 3D. I love this scale tool. It's the third one right there. You can scale things down. Let's get this aligned with the ground. Perfect. You can click this add checkpoint, get a second checkpoint, rotate that so it's a little flush with our other one. Again, this checkpoint's a lot bigger, so we'll scale it down and move it right there. You can use this move to ground tool to pop it down. Sometimes it throws it into the ground, but it can help if it spawns it way in the air or too far below. And we'll add our final checkpoint over here. This will be our finish line. And now we need to make sure that all of our checkpoints are connected. So you can see these lines going to each one. This means that they are. We can cut them. Sometimes you'll accidentally do this and you can reconnect them by clicking from gray point to gray point, turning them orange, and you can see that they are now connected. So now we'll test our map by clicking the test button up here. And hey, look at that. We've got a little slope already made. Checkpoint works. And all the way down to our finish line. Now you can also change your view up here to the third person cam, this new camera that was added, and get another experience. You'll want to bounce forth between these. You'll want to make your maps so they can work in both camera angles. But yeah, pretty smooth. Now we can jump into the terraforming, select this mountain icon, and the terraforming. My favorite is this flatten tool. It's very nice. You can see our height is set way below the ground. So if we pop it to 500, that should be level with our terrain. So if we pop it to 520, we'll have just a nice little bump. And this will just build terrain in a flat little plateau. You can change the size. You can make it very small, just itty bitty. You can change the strength. If you have it way down, you can see it takes a second to grow. And this is a slower raise right there. There's even more aspects to this tool. If you hold Control, you can select the height from other things, other terrain that's existing, which is super useful. Hold Control, click down low. See how this is eating away at our terrain to the right? You can change the mode to raise only, so it won't flatten down to the level. Or you could change it to flatten down to the level, but not raise any ground that is lower than it. So it won't raise this lower ground over here. Super useful in different scenarios. Of course, you have the normal raise and lower tools, if you prefer those. And this smooth tool right here is so nice for making your trails enjoyable. You can have the size set pretty high. You can change the strength if you would like it to not affect the terrain as much. If you want it to smooth everything out, have that higher. You can see it doesn't affect our path here because our path is not baked. Baking in the level editor changes your paths from paths to terrain. However, once you do this, you can't edit your paths using the points anymore, so be careful. Moving on to decoration. Your first tool is a little brush. I love this precision tool right here. It lets you choose a specific point, choose the size of your object, and also rotate it. So it's super nice for important decoration items that are really close to the trail. We'll just throw down a few here. You can change the color here. You can choose any color you'd like, or you can randomize it. Randomizing is sometimes nice just to get a variety And if you make way too many things, use this erase tool and get rid of them. Something else you can do with your decorations is add snow to them, so they'll be snow covered. You can also flip or mirror your objects, so this one's displaying underneath the ground. I have it set to random, so it'll change for these. Control Z will be your friend. It's the undo button. So yeah, play around with these to your heart's content. Figure out what you like. The mirror isn't working with the precision tool because you choose the direction. You can choose the placement mode for objects from terrain to objects if you'd like to place objects on objects. Choose water only. I love using this orientation tool. If you have a slope, your objects will be perpendicular to them, which is very nice for adding a little bit of character into your levels. Got a little Dr. Seuss tree over here. And yeah, really explore these tools. You can get very creative with them. The standard tool is the brush tool, so you can kind of paint objects. There's a lot of different settings here. I like to, when I'm using the brush tool, set the rotations to -10 and 10 to give a little bit of randomness, so things are just a little bit different. You can also change the scaling right here, so you can have it set from like 0.5 to 0.125, and it'll automatically choose a size between there to give you some height variety. Build a whole forest. You see how we've got some placing on top of each other? This is when you can set it to terrain only, so it won't place on top of other objects. A lot of possibilities here to save you from having to place every single object by hand. Not that that's bad. I honestly end up doing that for most of my objects. Like everything to look nice. Okay, let's move on to painting. First off is painting snow. You can go from deep snow to medium deep snow. I love using this soft brush, this furthest right option, and you can paint snow. This deep snow may not look very deep, but when your character rides through it, it's about waist deep. And you can smooth and have a little fade into the other snow heights. If you paint with no snow, it reveals the ground that's underneath. Again, this blend brush setting lets you get some very nice edges that feel kind of natural. I love this for painting anything. You can change what the ground consists of, the material of it. Certain ground types will affect your writing your character differently. Adding different colors and ground textures like this can really add to your levels. I highly suggest doing some of this along the edges of your trails, maybe where the snow's melting. If you want to add some ice to your levels, you can. Ice sits beneath the snow, but on top of the ground. So let's see that the snow covers it, but where the ground is exposed, the ice will cover it. Your characters will slide across this without control. So don't use this too much if you want people to enjoy your levels. Okay, let's move on to lakes. So you just want to go over to the terrain and create a big hole in the ground. Just lower that terrain. I'll smooth it out in just a second. Of course, this is just your preference. You don't have to have smooth lakes. You could have jagged lakes if you want. Go over to this water option, add a lake. You can see the water level display as I select this. And if you click, it'll create the lake for you. We can freeze the lake if we want. You can change the lake height here, refill the lake so it's lower, back about where it was. If you go too high, it will flood your entire map, so don't do that. And you can kind of break your lake if you try to go back to where it was after it was flooded. I won't go too deep into detail for this next part, but you always have to be aware of the camera on your maps. Say I thought it would be a great idea to have a ginormous rock right here along this curve. Could be really sweet, right? You'll see the problems that a choice like this could give you. So just be aware. We'll just keep an eye on our camera here and see what happens with this rock. So as we go around this, boom, we just clip into it. Now you can add a different type of camera to try and avoid this. But if something's just too close to your trail and too tall, it's a real pain to try to work around it. So maybe the better choice will be just to put it on the other side where it won't get in the way, and maybe put some small bushes here that won't be as intrusive. We've got to change our orientation back to normal. So if we test this now, we'll see that the camera works just as it should. We don't clip into anything. In another video, I'll go deeper into detail with editing the cameras. But maybe for some beginning trails, just try and avoid those problems from the get-go. And that's the end of our little basic tutorial. Have fun. Good luck editing and creating your own maps. I'll be creating a couple more in-depth videos in the next couple weeks. But until then, see you next time. Next time. You're still watching. I appreciate the support. But the tutorial's over. You really don't have to keep watching. Thank you.